Hey, what's up guys? Now feels like a great time to build a new PC because GPU prices are steadily dropping in most markets and thus they're getting easier to find. And we thought, why not build a PC? So the total budget of this PC build is around $1,000 or some 1,10,000 rupees in India. Okay, first off, our choice of components are these. We have the CPU, which is the Intel Core i5-12500, which costs about $210 right now. It's pretty similar to the i5-12400, which is roughly $20 cheaper currently. Both are 6 cores, 12 threads processors with 65-watt base TDP and 117-watt turbo power, and their frequency is not that different either. At least it won't be substantially noticeable under any given workload. But if you are a video editor, the i5-12500's UHD 770i GPU with higher execution units and media engines will be a better help in case something goes wrong with the system's DGPU. But then again, if you won't be doing any editing of sorts, then the i5-12400 is a perfectly safe bet. In fact, if the price difference between these two CPUs is beyond $20 or its equivalent currency, then there is no point in getting the costlier i5-12500. Better save that money and spend on something like an aftermarket cooler or something. Moving on, for this build, we're sticking to Intel's stock RM1 cooler that comes inside the box. In some markets, the i5-12500 apparently ships without a cooler as well, but in our region, it comes with a cooler, so that's a good thing for us. Anyway, the RM1 should hold its ground perfectly fine when you're gaming or doing anything that does not stress the CPU to its 100% load. But if you are intending this to be your content creation workstation and want a relatively quiet and cool performance, it will be wise to invest in an aftermarket cooler that best suits your budget. Alright, for the motherboard, we went with the MSI Pro B660M DDR4. As the name suggests, this micro ATX motherboard only supports DDR4 memory, although the i5-12500 is DDR5 ready as well. But no point in getting the ridiculously expensive DDR5 memory now, just not worth it in my opinion. This motherboard has PCI Gen 4 support, a 2.5G LAN, and reliable VRM thermal performance, aka pretty much perfect for our build. Okay, GPU wise, we have the MSI Ventus RTX 3060 2XOC with 12GB GDDR6 VRAM. But if you can find the 3060 Ti for up to $100 more, then go for it, since the performance jump to the Ti is well worth the price. For memory, we've used 2 sticks of AITC's RAPiDEZ DDR4 3200 MHz RAM, 8GB each in dual channel, and paired it with the AITC FZ300 512 gigs of M.2 PCIe Gen 3 SSD. Okay, AITC's products are not readily available in markets like India and the US, so you can go with other brands instead. As for the PSU, we've got the Thermaltake Smart BM2 750 watt. It's a semi-modular power supply that's 80 plus bronze rated for 85% of power efficiency and perfectly fine to handle all our components. Housing all of it is the XPG Invader mid-tower case. It already comes with 2 120mm fans, one for the front and one at the back. As you can see, the Invader has a minimalistic design, a fairly sturdy build quality, and more importantly, nice ventilation, while it features dust filters and a detachable magnet design too. Okay, that is enough talk. Now let's get into building our PC. So guys, as you can see, our PC build is completed and I played some games and ran some benchmarks in it. And as you can see, for a budget CPU, these scores are quite impressive, especially Cinebench's single core result. But since the i5-12500 is just a 6-core CPU with no E-cores, multi-core score is above average only. But then again, 6 cores is the standard for a processor in this price range, so it's nothing to complain about actually. But using the stock cooler, we recorded really high temperatures at around 100 degrees Celsius, and we also recorded performance throttling quite often on this CPU when all cores were active. So as a solution, we tried upgrading to the AITC KAF120 AIO cooler, which has a 120 mm fan. Yeah, that did bring down the CPU temperature at around 65 degrees Celsius during all core workloads. Check out our custom handbrake and 4K or 1080p conversion, for instance. The i5-12500 almost immediately jumps to 98 to 100 degrees Celsius with stock cooler on board, whereas the AIO cooler does not let the CPU throttle. Besides favorable temperatures, its fan noise is also a lot quieter, and there's RGB as well to add a little visual aesthetics to our PC. So if you are a content creator who does video editing, 3D works, or if you are a data scientist, spending a little extra on an AIO cooler could go a long way in extending the CPU's lifespan or the system's lifespan in general. Most of our benchmarks show better results with the AIO cooler like Puget Tech, V-Ray 5, Blender and such, but the stock cooler is not that far behind and its results are even better in certain instances. But if you're planning to exclusively use this PC for gaming, then the stock cooler should be enough because most games don't utilize all the 6 cores, so the performance difference between these two types of coolers is not that different. Although if you can add a little extra cash for an AIO cooler, then that's absolutely the way to go. Anyway, with this build, as you can see, except for Control and Cyberpunk 2077, most games we tested easily ran with 60 plus average FPS at the highest settings, while relatively less resource-hungry games like CSGO and League of Legends net out at around 300 FPS on average at max graphics settings. The 1% and 0.1% lows are within the stable range as well, which means no stutters or significant frame drops either, so quite a good setup for 1080p gaming. So guys, that was it for this PC build. It was quite an elaborate one, I have to admit. We are also coming up with an AMD build pretty soon, most probably with the new Ryzen 5 5600, so watch out for that video. Till then, I am Pratima and thank you so much for watching.